The Otter African Trail Run is presented by Easy Equities in association with Sand Parks and Kauai.
Sometimes it's better if you run from all that went before and all the things you've done. Stand back, throw your drop stand.
2022 saw the 13th edition of the race, in which runners tackled the Reto route from Nature's Valley to Storm's River Rest Camp. The 42 kilometers is a breathtaking trail that hugs the coastline cliffs of the Indian Ocean, providing both a natural visual and audio background. A seriously tough challenge over a rough and rocky hiking path. The Otter African Trail Run attracts the very best conditioned athletes. The brutal climbs and taxing terrain at times sends even the best runners into a dark, lonely pain chamber. The key to unlocking that chamber lies in the utter beauty of the journey, never straying too far from the crashing waves of the sea. The pristine coast is a feast for outdoor explorers and adventurers, and provides inspiration and fuels energy to continue on to the finish.
The Otter Trail is just a beautiful stretch of trail across 2 points on the coast. It's a mix of beautiful flowy forests and then really beautiful beaches. Yeah, it's a relentless trail. It's just up and down consistently, but it's amazing. It's incredible. There's so much nature around you, and you hear so many birds and beautiful animals, and so yeah, it's a very special trail.
The coastline is rocky. It's got little coves, beaches where the rivers come in, up into the jungle, into the forests, and all of those naturally lend themselves to a very diverse trail. Sometimes you're rock hopping, and within a few minutes you're climbing a steep climb, you're coming down, you're going through root-entangled forests. Sometimes you encounter open fynbos sections, sometimes you're in the shade, and then other times you're down on the beach. So all of that diversity is what makes the trail challenging, what makes it interesting, and what makes it an absolute benchmark in terms of marathon distance trail running.
You need to be fit, you need to be in good shape, but I think the mental side of Otter is always absolutely massive. Arguably the biggest marathon distance race in South Africa, like usually the most stacked field, and with that comes a lot of pressures. There's, I don't know, Otter is Otter, like it holds a special place in the trail running calendar, so there's like a higher level of intensity around it than many other races. So often it comes down to, you know, you need the fitness, but then you also need to be able to handle all the additional pressures and feelings that come with the Otter.
You know, Otter is that race that you can't predict what you're going to do in a day. You know, you can blow on the first 6Ks and you don't do much up there, and then later in the race, the place that you thought it's going to hurt the most becomes comfortable. So you can't really work out what's going to happen where.
And so it was with a sense of nervous anticipation that runners arrived to register for this iconic event. Run in the protected Tsitsikamma National Park means every precaution was taken to ensure the integrity of the natural vegetation was maintained. As runners received each piece of pre-race merchandise, the excitement grew. The race requires every athlete to get their gear inspected, making sure they complied with regulations put in place to ensure they were ready to face any type of weather condition. After registration, the runners had until 4:30 in the afternoon to complete the compulsory prologue, the results of which would determine start times. The 4.1 kilometer route starts high above the race village. The top 24 men and top 16 women would earn the right to start in the first group, known as the Abangeni.
Run smart today. Today's just a shakeout. Tomorrow's the race. I can't think of a better race that represents so much of what is so great about the South African trail community. The people, the trails, everything about it.
After much anticipation, the runners bolted away from the start. Generally, a finish under 22.5 minutes for the men and 27.5 minutes for the women would put them in the Abangeni start batch.
It's quite exciting to be back. It feels like a tradition that every year I definitely need to be here, because this year I'm going for my 7th one and I'm looking forward to have all the fun on the trail.
The unique challenges presented by the trail requires some specific training by top athletes.
Training's been going well. I've done things a little bit differently, focused more on strength, did some biokinetic sessions twice a week just to focus on the stairs and getting that strength for that last section.
The variety of trail surfaces is what separates the Otter from other trail running events. The notorious 7,000 steps sees smooth, leaf-laden forest paths, root-riddled steps, and rocky river crossings. This demands focus and concentration at all times. And then, of course, it has the most unique setting that has runners coming back year in and year out.
There's no other coastline in the world to run like this, up and down all day, 7,000 steps, knocks you about, but there's no other course like this in the world. This one still takes it away. It's the best one, best one.
The prologue was a chance to shed the nerves, get a feel for the trails and an idea of what they would be in for the next day. Getting the strides and pacing right was critical in recording a good time and securing a decent start time for the competitive types. A missed step could be painful. Not running the prologue would put a runner in the last batch, but on such a perfect day, there was no chance anyone was going to miss out on a chance to run the Otter African Trail Run presented by Easy Equities. Defending champion Johan van Heerden set a new record as the fastest man in 19 minutes and 48 seconds. And Tony McCann showed she is in top form with a record-breaking run of 21 minutes and 49 seconds. The last few hundred meters was along the shoreline before happy runners went through the finish gate to clock out. A glorious sunrise over nature's valley pointed to a day of fine but hot weather for those who had committed to taking on one of the toughest but most rewarding marathon trail runs in the world. Some last-minute advice from two-time winner Tony McCann.
The most important piece of advice I could give, the training's been done, you've put in the work, it's going to be hot, so hydration is going to be absolutely key. Just go out and enjoy it. You can reap the benefits now of actually just running along this most beautiful piece of coastline. Hopefully to awaiting open arms of family and friends who have cheered you along the way.
And away the Abangeni group went. They had 12 hours and 41 minutes of daylight ahead of them. The fastest of them would need a little more than a third of their time to complete the course.
It's just great spending some time with some fellow competitors and friends on the trail, and obviously to run fast. I think the sub 4 is still in the back of all our minds. So that's the main objective, but just to go out there and enjoy it.
Johan was certainly among the favourites, with 2 wins under his belt. However, he has not won a retro yet. Heading up the first section of stairs, the total elevation gain over the full route is 2,600 metres. Facing 11 climbs of more than 50 metres elevation gain and 3 climbs exceeding 100 metres, they were soon into the Fynbos section.
This stretch of ocean between Nature's Valley and Storms River, it's probably my favorite part in the world. It's just so special. You just have this sea, the cliffs, the massive waves crashing into the cliffs, and then you have this pristine coastline running through Fynbos, running through natural forest, running over rocks. You just don't get it anywhere in the world. I've spoke to some of the international guys and they're referring back to when they came here in 2018, and there's nothing that compared to this run. It's brutal, but at the same time, it's beautiful.
Robbie Roerich with the poles as he summits the first climb. Kyle Bucklow, who was 15 seconds behind Van Heerden on the prologue. Tebang Madiba was next, followed by a steady flow of top contenders. Lying in 10th was the first woman, Tony McCann. The leading pair was Johart van Heerden and Kane Riley, making a strong start to open up a sizable advantage on the chasers. It was Riley's prologue record that van Heerden had topped a day earlier. The event would not take place without the incredible support of Sandparks, as the route is on the protected marine coastline. Faces CEO Clark Gardner recognizes the special nature of the Otter.
It's our privilege to be able to run this amazing route, the very famous Otter Trail. It's the only time you can access this trail and run it in one day. And we really privileged and thank Sandparks for giving us this privilege to be able to run this route. We also make use of the communities in this area for our staff, for our suppliers, for our service providers, and that's something we really do invest in quite strongly, and it's our agreement with Sandparks that that's a big part of our privilege of using this trail for an event, is to invest in these communities.
So what were the conditions going to be like this year?
The trail is a lot drier than in previous years, so I think that leads to a little bit more confidence on the trail when it's technical, because it's not as muddy, which is sometimes a bit slippery. Blowcrans is also a little bit shallower this year. We'll be hitting it at very low, hopefully. And it's also a little bit sanded up, so hopefully there won't be too much swimming involved. And previous years would testify to the fact that I'm not a strong swimmer, so that will play in my favor.
The Blowcrans River crossing came at roughly 12 kilometers into the race, and Tony was able to bound across the mouth of the river without any issues. Bianca Tarberton had made a good start, finding herself in second place. A quick splash to cool off before the climb out of the valley. Meanwhile, Riley and Van Heerden were heading down towards Kauai Munchie Point, near Oakhurst Hut, about 20 kilometers into the race. They were inseparable. Two giants of trail runners going about their business with focus, composure, and respect for one another. There was still a long way to run. Third place, Robbie Roerich was using the poles to good effect as he followed the leading duo to Kauai Munchie Point, which was a vital mid-race refuel stop for the athletes. They had a huge variety of nutritious food and drink to choose from.
The Munchie Point this year is packed full of Kauai amazing product. We've got raw bars, granola bars, peanut butter bars, nuts, biltong, little energy caffeine bars, so everything just to hydrate, give you energy and fuel you up for that second boost of the run. So we're very, very excited about the Munchie Point this year, and hopefully the runners are going to enjoy all that amazing nutritional food.
Kyle Bucklow was in good spirits as he left Munchie Point in fourth place. The leaders were on the steep ascent away from Oakhurst. They had around 7 kilometers to go to the next hut at Scott.
I love the section between Oakhurst and Scott. It's a beautiful section running on top there through the fynbos. You can just see this magnificent coastline. It's not too hectic, not too tough. And it's just that last little breather that you get before you start getting into the big climbs. And then there's natural forest from Scott towards Nkubu, although it's so hard and so tough with big up and downs, it's just so beautiful, and I love that section.
So what is his strategy?
I'm quite competitive, so I don't want to let my competitors go too much, but I personally have my own strategy to hold back a little bit until Scott out. I think from Scott towards the end, that's where the race are going to be win or lose. So I think if you can keep something in the tank until Scott and then push for this last section until the finish line, you can easily make up 10 minutes on a guy that's hurting. So be conservative the first half, just focus on eating and drinking, and then start pushing over the second half of the course.
I've done this race a lot of times, but because it's also like up and down and like moving, it's almost hard to like have a really clear idea of what the route looks like in your head from start to finish. Favorite parts of the route, the first 20 Ks, and the worst part of the route, the last 20 Ks. No, like to be honest, I really enjoy the whole route. I think it's one of those races where the route is spectacular from start to finish. Pretty much the whole route is the highlight.
Kauai Munchie Point was the focus for the next runner in the trail. In 5th place overall was Tony McCann. An all-round sportsperson as a youngster, Tony was on the brink of an international hockey career when she gave up the game and turned to trail running in her post-grad at UCT. Bianca Tarberton was running strongly and now finding herself in 2nd place.
I think it's very important to just get used to doing stairs, doing training where you're able to incorporate just consistent up and down, but then also fast running, because I think people underestimate. In Otter there's a lot of really runnable kilometers, and so I mean there's a lot of climbing obviously, but to be able to run fast on those flat sections is really beneficial. So trying to get a mix of those both, I suppose.
After a fast start, Van der Merwe was in 3rd place, but the battle for first was intense, and other athletes were keen to see who would win.
I can't wait. I actually want to take out my phone mid-race to see what's happening up in front between Tony and Bianca, and yeah, it's going to be very cool. I don't know who's going to win, but I hope they both have very good races, and I think they're both nice and prepared after their European season.
Up front, there had been a change in the men's race. Kane Riley was now in 2nd place, with Johart having turned up the heat after Scott's hut.
Oh, me and Johart just had such a good rhythm together for like the first 30 odd kilometers. At times kind of just forgot we were racing, like taking turns leading. I think we both just wanted to run fast and realize it's good to kind of work together, and then you just get lost in your surroundings. It's totally beautiful. And then he's always so strong in the last 10 Ks, and yeah, I ran as well as I wanted to today, so super stoked.
What I love about the Otter is that it puts the respect back into the marathon distance racing. You think, oh, this is going to be easy, but then you just don't get any easy terrain in Otter. It's just up and down. There's no significant climbs. It's just the brutal relentlessness of it being up and down all the time. And if you start doing those climbs towards the end, you start cramping if you have to step up too high.
By a magic coincidence, the Otter Trail Run is 42 kilometers, which in a lot of people's minds makes it comparable to the standard marathon distance, and that has captured people's imagination across the world. And I think the testament that the times are slow compared to a road run is testament to the resistance that the trail puts on the runners. The times are not slow by any means. It's actually almost unthinkable, the times of the top athletes. It's almost unthinkable for a lot of people that this trail can be done in one day, let alone in the matter of 4 hours.
The incentive is to break 4 hours for the male and 4 hours 40 for the female. That's reserved for South African athletes. And that prize money was doubled by Easy Equities this year, an incredible, generous token from their side.
Carl Nolte, our Chief Marketing Officer, came up with the idea to increase the prize money this year. And it was just to show our appreciation for the time and the dedication that it takes for an athlete to win a race like this or podium in a race like this. And we just believe that they deserve it. And obviously down the line, together with Otter, we really want to try and attract more international athletes to take part in this amazing event.
Johart van Heerden, true to form, pushed hard over the last 10 kilometers, putting aside some bad memories over the potentially treacherous rocky coastline to fire to the finish.
I specifically trained for these rocks. 2 years ago I had a death march over these rocks, so I didn't want to repeat that. So I was happy with the last section, but I think there was that middle section that I just had a low point.
But it was not low enough or long enough to allow Kane Riley to pass him. Kane would have to settle for second for a fifth time. The win remains elusive for the time being. At Storms River, a huge crowd of trail runners and fans were on hand to welcome home the 2022 winner for his third triumph. An elated Van Heerden had a quick glance over his shoulder before stepping up to cross the finish line.
Yeah, it was just so great. This is my first retro that I've won, so it was so great. And with my parents here, my two brothers running, my sister, my wife's running. Can't wait until my wife's coming in. It was just, yeah, it's so special.
Kane Riley gave his 6-month-old son Finn a kiss before he ran the last few meters to the finish. Some 7 minutes and 12 seconds behind Van Heerden, who was at the finish to welcome him home. And 17 minutes after Kane crossed the line, he and Johart gave third-placed Robbie Roerich a warm welcome. Johart missed out on the magical sub-4-hour time by 5 minutes and 19 seconds, while 9 out of the top 10 ran under 5 hours to earn a black-ribboned medal, a 6th top 10 in 7 years for Mbuyisi. The women's race was billed as a clash between Tony McCann and Bianca Tarbuton, between them winners of the last 3 races. So what's key at Otter?
I think what's really important in Otter is just staying super present and trying to just keep your focus. The last few Ks definitely hurt and your body's really tired and there's cramping and all sorts, but I think so those few Ks where you've really just got to put your head down and put one foot in front of the other and just keep going like that the whole way.
And that's exactly what McCann did as she put together the perfect run, crossing the finish in 4 hours, 33 minutes and 26 seconds to take a massive 4 minutes 22 seconds off the old record and collect a 150,000 Rand bonus. Little wonder the 28-year-old was overjoyed at her efforts.
I'm a little bit speechless still. I went really hard with the goal of going sub 440 and I can't really believe what just happened. Really, really happy.
Bianca came home 21 minutes later to take second place. She also dipped under 5 hours with a time of 4 hours, 54 minutes, 15 seconds, while an emotional Van der Merwe was third in 5 hours, 18 minutes. A phenomenal run by Tony McCann to break the record. She was 4th overall. Bianca Tarbuton was also in the top 10 finishers overall, coming home in 9th place. While we have highlighted the superb performance of the cream of the crop at the 2022 Otter African Trail Run presented by Easy Equities, the event is about so much more. Regardless of the many times you might have completed the Otter, it remains one of the toughest events on the calendar, particularly the hot and humid conditions that prevailed in 2022. Medals earned in Storms River are cherished above many others. The emotional scenes unfolding at the finish were testament to a huge sense of achievement by each and every finisher. The Otter is a grueling challenge that pushes runners to the very edge. For many hours, the finish just does not seem to get any closer. Pain takes over the body and the mind has to fight hard not to give in what is a true test to physical and mental strength. It is not dubbed the Grail of Trail for nothing. Finishing the Otter African Trail Run presented by Easy Equities requires an athlete to be supremely prepared to suffer for many hours, and even then, in some cases, might not be enough. This iconic event brings out the best in fit and strong South Africans who prepare with dedication and make big sacrifices so they can join the ever-growing band of super athletes who can say, "I have run the Otter." Why not join in next year? Look out for entries to the 2023 Otter African Trail Run presented by Easy Equities. Go to www.otter.run. It will be the run of your life. The Otter African Trail Run was presented by Easy Equities in association with Sand Parks and Kauai.